Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1. Broken, written by Dariah Leaf. The transport ramp descends, and for the first time in 7 cycles, the breeze of the Imperial homeworld muffles my verb. I am home. I make my way through the usual bureaucratic trappings and security checks, getting some odd looks here and there when I insist on keeping my sidearm. But these little pinpricks do not faze me. I've had worse. Lance Commander Herder, sir. A moment. A voice of the scribe stops me in my tracks, and I turn to face her. Her furred form is smooth and well-groomed. Neat, even. I'd forgotten the sight of such carefully tended fur. For a moment I want to run my claws through it, but the moment passes with her next words. Lance Commander Herder, might I get a few words from you on the state of the conflict with the clawless ones? I sigh, and the sigh gets taken as consent, so the scribe continues. My eyes wander away from her groomed form to check my surroundings before I catch myself and refocus on her words. Ever since the clawless ones have joined the skittering cowards, the influx of wounded to the Imperial home has increased tenfold, but none of the returning veterans are willing to explain anything about their experiences. Could you shed some light on this? I really do not wish to have this conversation right now, but my eyes track a spot over her shoulder, and I see another pair of veterans play a game of rods and fountains behind her. The older of the pair missing a hind leg from the thigh down, while his younger comrade is missing his left eye, ear, and part of his muscle. The rictus grin that this injury gives the younger veteran reminds me of another soldier I once saw. Leave me, Commander. Save yourself. I'm done for. They're in the trees, behind every rock. They're everywhere. Save yourself. My thoughts snapped back to the scribe and gave a little growling laugh. You wish to know of the war with the humans. I see the satisfaction that she gets uncomfortable with me calling it a war. The Imperial High Command was decreed that a war can only be between peers, between equals. The conflict against the Federation and the human allies cannot be a war, for that would imply that they are equals to the great Empire. Fools! I press on before she can interrupt me. The war can only end with the complete destruction of the Empire or the humans. They will not stop. We angered them. After the initial naval engagements and the defeats the Navy suffered, we changed to match them, and we pushed them back. The scribe taps away at her electronic scroll and listens intently as I go on. We pushed into some of their frontier areas and took some colonies, burning several others along the way. This was a mistake. Her eyes snap up as I say this, and her head tilts in confusion. If we pushed them back and took their worlds, how can that be a mistake? I bristle my fur in a mild rebuke. She doesn't get it. Taking a human world is easy if planned well. Holding it is... It's the hard part. The skitters, the crabs, as the humans call them when conquered, comply with the natural order of the universe. They submit to the stronger. I sigh sadly. Humans, don't follow those rules. My words trail off, and the silence prompts the scribe to make a specific question, one that snaps my gaze up to her eyes, but throws my gaze far beyond her. You fought in the occupation of Halden 5, yes? So you know how the clawless ones fight on the ground, as you face them in the underground cities of that world, yes? They're in the walls! They're in the void-spored walls! Retreat! Retreat! They're in the walls! I find my voice and suppress the urge to growl and snarl at her. My claws painfully push into my palm as I ball a fist. Yes, I was in the tunnel, sir. Part of me is still there. Her eyes snap to my left, and how the sleeve dangles uselessly in the spring breeze. We took the planet's surface within a day. Then we moved into the underground domes. They let us walk right in. Fools we were! They waited till we got an axe in our patrols, till we believed their submission was genuine. Then they broke us. Broke you? How? Her words have an edge on them. I know I'm skirting the rules of proprietary now. A warrior has standards to uphold. To the nethers with the standards. Yes, they broke us. You call them clawless ones or furless, but they are the humans. The insane, the mighty, the breakers of minds, the hunters of souls. To face humans in battle is to face fear itself, and then realizing that you are found wanting. I growl out my words defiantly and see her shrink back. Want to know how to spot a true veteran of the war against humans? I can show you how. How? Her words sound small as she shrinks back, and I realize I've reared up to my full height, the chestplate that is part of my partial uniform glinting in the red sun of the imperial home and reflecting into her eyes. I raise my remaining claw and bawl it. Forgive me, my brethren, I silently whisper, while looking at the veterans near the fountain. Some others I can now see walking around the square behind them. My thoughts circle back to what I was going to prove, and I look down at the scribe. The humans have a custom they perform before certain battles. This is what most of our warriors hear before the end comes, by way of searing plasma from the shadows, screaming metal from the sky, sharpened stakes in the ground, or the insidious, silent kiss of a knife in the dark. My fist thumbs up my armor once, twice, and then I open my paw to change the sound. I repeated it again and again. Thump, thump, slap. I see my commanding officer's head explode from the shot out of the dark. Thump, thump, slap. The medic rushing up to cauterize the wound where my arm used to be crashes down at my feet with her legs missing below the knee. Thump, thump, slap. I see my aide being dragged into the shadows by a human grapple gun. His screams of pain echoing around our camp for torturous hours on end. Every team that tried to rescue him cut down by sniper fire. In the end, I called down artillery on his beacon to finally end his suffering. But it didn't stop the humans. Thump, thump, slap. Every night it sounded. A patrol goes out, and then out of the dark. Thump, thump, slap. The translator screams about how they would stone us, and stone us they did. Our minds broke before our armor did. My mind snaps back to reality, and I stop my fist thumping into my chestplate. The scribe isn't looking at me. Her eyes are locked on the veterans at the fountain. The older one is in the fountain now, taking cover behind the room, eyes scanning for a non-existent tree line. The younger one is sitting on the ground in the shadow nearby, paw cradling his knees as he rocks back and forth. Further back, other veterans glare up at me, eyes wild with fear and recognition. We are broken. We survived the humans in battle, but it is not a victory. The living envy the dead, for they are done with battle. We are broken. My eyes track upwards towards the royal palaces, and they narrow as I do. We are broken. And for what? The other veterans track my gaze, and a shimmer goes through all of our furs. Maybe it is time for something else to break. End of story. Story number 2. Big Iron, written by Whiskey Lullaby. It was supposed to be a training exercise. A bunch of cadets familiarizing themselves with flying actual ships, blowing up a few asteroids and junk heaps to learn the weapon systems better. Until the Kolethi fleet warped into view. Commander Briggs, one of the less than dozen veteran officers and the instructor of the course, began ordering a full retreat and attempted to contact local defense forces. He's practiced calm, hiding the flurry of emotions boiling in his gut. A full Kolethi war fleet, this deep into human space. How? Briggs ordered his larger, more armored craft forward, as well as a few of the better armed cadet craft to form a skirmish line, using their outdated kinetics and lasers to outrange the Kolethi's more dangerous but shorter range plasma bolts as they let many of the smaller, more vulnerable craft escape. Then it happened. A stray Kolethi missile slammed into the TUN Big Iron, outmodded cruiser-class vessel, 6 of the 12 sections were venting atmo, and the reactor was badly damaged. Briggs's heart leapt into his throat as he keyed this command line. Cadet Robbins, eject your core and use auxiliary power to get into towing range before your reactor goes critical, he commanded, sweat beading on his brow as he awaited the reply, silently cursing the absolute ancient comms that they were using. The massive distance between the skirmishing ships often causing delays of up to 20 seconds, not to mention encrypting and decrypting. Time seemed to slow as he received a reply. Negative, sir. We are currently riding one of the biggest guns in the universe, and it's pointed right at their dreadnought. In vitam et mortem, quia terra. Briggs's eyes widened, but before he could key the console again, he watched in horror as the big iron spooled its jump drive, the overloaded reactor sending massive coronas of arcing plasma around the ship and providing far more power than it should. Space seemed to warp around the dying cruiser before, with an almost audible pop despite the lack of atmosphere. It disappeared, only to reappear in a violent shower of sparks and metal plowing at impossible speeds through the hull of the almost planetoid-sized Kalethi dreadnought. A bright, vaporizing flash as its own reactor went, and half the enemy fleet was gone. The aliens retreated as more human ships came into view, dozens of voices filling Briggs's comm channel as he stared at the hole in his console where the big science status was displayed. This is Commander Briggs. Enemy threat neutralized. Crew of the TUN Big Iron recommended for highest honors for destruction of alien dreadnought. The ship and all hands aboard. I lost, he croaked, suddenly looking much older as he collected a facade cracked and tears pooled at the edges of his vision. His bridge crew looked away and never spoke another word about how they watched invincible Briggs break. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Barkey, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Lord Azrakal, and Arcadian.